Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 6. So in Module 6, we are still working on your definition essay. This essay, if you remember, will cover 3 modules. So you'll be covering just a little bit of some new stuff in this module. We're getting you some more things that you need in order to write the essay. In the previous module, you guys did a discussion board about your topic. And so the first thing you want to do is look back at that discussion board and look at my feedback so that you can make sure that the topic that you have chosen is one that will work for the essay. So I try to get in there early on in the week and leave you a little bit of feedback. But if you go in and you see that I haven't commented yet, or you have any questions about your essay topic, you're more than welcome to send me an email. So now what you're going to be doing is you have an outline and you're going to learn a little bit more about documentation in order to prepare for that, the source requirement for this essay, which is new. So what you're going to be doing first is thinking about what you want to include in the essay. So you want to go back to the essay assignment itself and make sure that you are comfortable with what you're working on. Remember, you are choosing an abstract term or concept, and so the majority of students they kind of approach this essay as like, how can you break down this term into maybe different types? Perhaps there's some history to the term, so you can look at how it's changed over time, in which case you would look at it kind of chronologically. You might also look at the term as using different examples. So if you were doing, I don't know, communism or something, then your essay would just break down different time periods or places, probably places, so countries that have used communism, and kind of go from maybe the earliest example to the most recent example or something like that. So you would kind of break that down. If you're using, you know, a religious term, kind of same thing, it would be providing examples of or explaining maybe some of the history of why it's done or why it's used. So you've got a lot that you could cover with that. But again, your focus is making it an extended definition. So it's not like an opinion piece on, you know, whether or not this term is used correctly or whether or not people believe it correctly. We are focusing on like an extended understanding of this term or maybe this phrase that you've chosen. And so you want to be thinking about like, how does it affect you? What are some of the things that you have personal experience with when it comes to this particular topic, or you know, you have at least one source. If you're comfortable using sources, so it just kind of depends a lot on where students went to high school. If you're comfortable using sources, you're more than welcome to use more than one. But for this essay, that's the minimum, is just one source. So I do have some students who include a lot more research, and that's fine. However, that there is that one minimum, and that is a lot of that is just for students who've never used a source in an essay before. So anyway, the first thing that you're going to do then is, after confirming that your topic will work, you want to come up with an outline for your essay. So an outline is one that it's a plan for your essay. And I want this to be a formal outline. So I've given you an example here. A formal outline is one where you always include a thesis statement in an outline. In this case, a lot of times we'll call it a working thesis because it is sort of a rough draft thesis. This is the plan right now, but a thesis statement will probably change as you write an essay, because the ideas that you put in your essay, you know, it's hard to write a thesis when the essay doesn't exist yet. So you're going to possibly be rewording the thesis as you go to match the wording in the essay if you find a better way to explain it, or you decide on a different main point or whatever. So this is my thesis. I'm working with anxiety here as my topic. And so I have, you know, while most people felt anxious before, the most extreme symptoms mean that people can be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, and medical treatments needed to function. So I've decided to cover anxiety as my topic, And I've covered basically 3 types, and that is kind of a general anxious or nervous feeling that most people have, generalized anxiety disorder, which is something that's actually diagnosed and often treated with medication or something like that, and then phobias, which are the extreme form of anxiety, which often cause people to kind of shut down and definitely need drugs in order to function just normally. So most of my personal experience is kind of with the sort of general anxiety, and then a little bit with anxiety disorder, which I didn't know I had until I had children, because sometimes those symptoms don't really manifest until you get a little bit older, or until your like life situations change a little bit, and you don't notice that some of the things that you do may have a specific reason for why they happen. So anyway, that's some of the things that I could, relate to personally. I don't have an extreme phobia though, so that's where I'm probably going to end up using the majority of research. I'm going to have to do some research for. But you can see that the way that I have organized this is from general to specific. So, and also kind of like most common to least common, but you could also think of it as least complex, so most kind of universal, to most specific. Because the phobias are one that, a lot of people haven't had a lot of experience with. I could do an entire paper on phobias and then just cover different types of phobias, again going probably from most general to least general, or most specific. So those are different ways that you can kind of approach it. There's a lot of different ideas in the textbook. So in this patterns chapter on definition, it talks a lot about deciding on a pattern of development, to give it like examples that you can use, using description, comparing and contrasting different aspects of the term that you might be using. You might be explaining the process as it goes through, like chronologically what happens, classification and division. This is kind of what I used, was just kind of covering different types. That's a pretty common way to do it. And then I think on the next page, there's kind of an outline. This is just a real basic outline. So what we call this is informal outline. And so this might help you as well. I'm expecting more detail than this for the one that you turn in, but you can kind of use this to help you see what it's supposed to look like, or how you might break down your topic. So once you've figured that out, the second thing you're going to do is take a look at some documentation stuff and take a quiz. So the quiz is we have several assignments related to documentation. This one is just getting you, for some of you, it's just an introduction to documentation. Documentation can be really complicated if you've never had to use sources before, and so some students find it very overwhelming. So my suggestion is the Rules for Writers is probably the best of the 2 books for getting into it, and this section on writing papers in MLA style just goes through and really explains it very well, I think. And the main issue that students seem to have is like they just get confused when they're sitting down to actually put a source in their paper. And so I've got some resources for you. I've got the Purdue OWL LinkedIn, which is a great resource. This is just a slide share of like why we use citations and how they work. So this I think is incredibly useful. It's just kind of a different way of explaining it. And then I have 2 instructor created videos for you. This one just goes over documentation in general, and then this one is most students, the main problem that they have is when they come across just like a general internet source. So if you're using a source like from a library database, you can usually copy the citation, and they usually have authors, and so they're a lot easier to cite. But if you are just like out there Googling things on the internet, often you'll come up with a source like mine here. I don't have an author. And so being able to reference this in my essay, I get a lot of students with incorrect references, and so I have this video in there for them. And then this is the documentation quiz, just like you've done for other quizzes. You can take it as many times as you want to, and I encourage you to take it more than once because you'll get more different questions, and it'll just help to improve your understanding of MLA. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Otherwise, have a great week.